My name's George. I was born and raised in San Jose, California. That's in the Bay. My mom is Filipino and my dad is Thai. So I'm not full Filipino. When I grew up, they taught me just how to speak English. I think the story was because they didn't want me to talk behind the other one's back. Where I grew up, there was a lot of Filipinos, but we weren't a majority. The majority of the population was either Hispanic, Vietnamese, and then Filipinos, and then white and blacks. So when I grew up, I had very little Filipino friends. I had like 2 growing up, and the rest of my friends were either Hispanic or Vietnamese. So the culture that I was exposed to was their culture. I remember going in high school to more VCNs, Vietnamese culture nights, than Filipino culture nights, part 1, because I didn't really sort of know about them, and I wasn't really exposed to them. I didn't really get involved into the Filipino community until I transferred to UCLA out of community college. Up until then, I was Filipino, but I didn't really know what it meant, and I didn't really know what I was representing when I'd say I'm Filipino. And at UCLA, it taught me 2 things about being Filipino: identity and culture, and how identity and culture are very intertwined, where I was able to find other people who grew up sort of in the same background as me. Some who were also half Filipino, or some who only spoke English, and it was interesting because we would learn more about our history, some things that our parents didn't really teach us or overlooked to teach us. And what we learned as our history was where we come from, where our parents came from. I didn't really know about my parents' story, and I still know little about it. I didn't ask them about it until UCLA. And my mom, she was a nurse, and as a nurse there was like this contract I made that once she graduated nursing school in the Philippines, she was able to come to America. And that was sort of her roots here. And as I was growing up, I think my parents were more focused on trying to make themselves established in America and trying to provide their kids with a sense of security as opposed to a sense of community. So something like food on the table, or making sure there's enough money to pay the house off. And as they were doing that, they sort of overlooked us. Should we teach our child where we come from? So it makes me feel very appreciative of my parents, because if that was their job to just provide me a sense of security and, you know, a foundation, what I do with that foundation is actually learning about my community now and able to give back to those who aren't, who are in my position in high school and, you know, my early years of college. It seems like, and that's why I do stuff like this, because I need to learn more about our culture, something that I've missed when I grew up, and what I learned I can give back, and I can provide that as a community for those who were growing up the same way I did, or maybe who were growing up differently. I don't speak Tagalog or Ilocano or the other Filipino languages, and when someone comes up to me who can, they'll say, "Do you speak Tagalog?" And I'll say, No, I don't. And then they go, "Why?" And that, it sort of targets me as opposed to my upbringing, as in, why don't you speak Tagalog if you're Filipino? Because I feel like it's expected, and I really don't know what to say to that. I give them my background, I give them my story, but it's sort of like you're asking me why of a choice that I didn't have when I grew up. And maybe even if I'm not pursuing it now, it's sort of like, it's very targeting, and it's very hard to answer at times, the why. It makes me feel like I'm a letdown to those people who ask that question, because it's hard to answer, and I can answer it rationally, but it's still on me, and I'm still not doing enough for them. When I grew up, and this goes back to my real I didn't have a lola or, you know, lolo. It was papa and mama, and my parents would give me that choice to call them one or the other, but now I sort of code switch depending on who I'm talking to. So if it's an older, you know, I'll add po at the end, or if they introduce to me as lolo or lola, I'll use that. And it doesn't give me the entire language, but it gives me the appreciation for sure, and sort of a window into saying, well, yeah, I don't know it, but I can appreciate it, and I know these certain words that help me get, you know, through the barrier, so to speak.